Hey there, welcome back to High Infidelity, the best channel for cheating stories. Like and subscribe to channel for more spicy stories. Now, let's get into today's story video. My vile ex-wife. I divorced my ex-wife more than 5 years ago because she had cheated on me on a regular basis with at least 13 different men and 2 women. As background, my ex-husband and I were swingers until the last year of our marriage. To give you some perspective, when I realized things had gone out of hand, I informed her I'd had enough of swapping partners. Unfortunately, she didn't agree and continued to meet up with guys behind my back. During the 6 months leading up to our divorce, my oldest child was diagnosed with a life-threatening condition. I will not go into details in order to preserve my identity. She started to crumble under the pressure and began to drink excessively, putting herself and our children in danger as a result. It became so terrible that I was forced to leave the house for a few weeks, bringing our children with me to live with my parents. Her closest friend, we'll call her Amy, called me at this time because my ex had exposed all of her dirty deeds to her on a girls' night out only a few days before. During the course of her pregnancy, she confessed to sleeping with a new guy every night and getting inebriated. She also told Amy that she had left our 3- and 4-year-old children alone at home for one night a month earlier in order to meet a guy, and that she had done so in order to meet a man. The rumor was that my ex-girlfriend was planning to file for divorce once she had sucked some more money from me while living rent-free in my home, according to Amy. It was at this point that Amy and I both agreed it was time to bring a halt to the relationship. Her staying with me was a source of frustration for her since she loathed me and couldn't go out and play around with her posse of desperate boys. The first step was to design a plan to evict her from the house and document all of her inappropriate behavior so that we could limit her custody of the children. The first step was to drag my ecstatic back inside the house and collapse on the bed next to her. She became completely mad, demanding that I leave the house immediately and threatening to call the authorities if I didn't comply. She had no clue that I was recording the audio of our conversation. Following my instruction for her to pound sand, she immediately phoned the cops and accused me of domestic abuse. The police officers came in no time and had me in handcuffs in such a short period of time that it made my head spin. The detective came over to the squad car to talk with me, and I gave him permission to listen to the audio recording. The longer he stayed, the more furious he became with my wife, until he eventually left. Eventually, she was the one behind the wheel of a squad car, handcuffed, and condemned to spend the night in jail. She went to stay with Amy for a week. Since she wasn't permitted to return to our home, I got a restraining order. During this week, she went on a shopping frenzy, purchasing a new laptop, an iPhone, at full retail price, and a new clothing. She depleted our bank account and began to raid my savings. Amy also admitted to binge drinking at her residence to the point that she puked and defecated on herself all over her bathroom. Amy videotaped her binge for posterity, and she sent me 20 minutes of footage of a lady out of control intoxicated. The following day, I went to our savings account and placed all of our money in my new bank account so I could pay the bills. I canceled the account so she wouldn't be able to invoke overdraft protection and leave me liable for the overages. I canceled all of our shared credit cards and moved all of my investment accounts into a separate account in my name alone. She lost it when she realized she no longer had any money to burn through. Because things had grown so awful, she informed Amy that she was thinking about committing herself. I despised my ex, yet I didn't want to see her hurt herself in any way. Amy persuaded her that she needed care and accompanied her to an inpatient psychiatric institution. This was great because she was receiving care, but it also demonstrated that she was a threat to herself and the children. It was time to put the last piece of our strategy into action and close the sale. I went to see my attorney to start the divorce process and fill all the necessary papers. My attorney was outraged by my ex's conduct and was completely committed to assisting me in obtaining primary custody. He submitted my divorce decree and also persuaded the court to issue a temporary restraining order until our first hearing. We served the papers on her while she was in the hospital and scheduled the first hearing for 2 weeks later. The first hearing day arrived, and she arrived with her counsel. They didn't know what information we had since it was a pre-litigation hearing. She took the stand and began lying her heart out, telling the court how abusive I was and how that is what drove her to the mental hospital. She presented a persuasive point and performed a Grammy-winning performance. It was then my time. My lawyer provided all of the evidence, including videos and bank records. The turning point came when my attorney summoned Amy to the stand to testify. She narrated a horrific tale of a neglected mother who was absolutely out of control. A tale of a mother who was struggling with drug usage that was only getting worse. My ex couldn't keep her mouth shut the whole time Amy was on the stand. She made her attorney appear like as since all of her falsehoods were now revealed and contradicted what she had told him. When the dust cleared, I was granted exclusive custody, and she was granted supervised visits until she completed rehab and received more therapy. We swiftly reached an out-of-court settlement, agreeing to a progressive visitation schedule as she completed treatment and mental health therapy. I received the home after giving her a piece of the equity. I kept all of my financial accounts, and I get to see my kids around 80% of the time. She was able to spend the following 2.5 years living with her mother and bouncing from job to job. Life is very wonderful 5 years later, and it's much better knowing she's no longer my concern. Story 2. I, 30 male, finally got truth and pried out confessions from my wife, 30 female of 5 years, that she's been having an affair for months. Despite the fact that this is still a throwaway, please read the previous post for background. My wife finally opened up to me about some of the facts of our lives last night. As soon as she arrived in town for a bridal shower last weekend, I made it clear to her that she was not permitted to drink alone with her friend back home in the South. We recently moved up north. She proceeded to tell me about her weekend activities, all of which were perfectly innocent. It was suggested that I get in touch with the dude's girlfriend. Though I was apprehensive about doing it at first, I'm quite glad I did it. I questioned as to whether she had ever had any reservations about these two. Yes, she acknowledges that they have spoken about it, but he maintains that they are only good friends. She voiced her dissatisfaction with my wife's decision to spend the weekend at his residence. What the hell happened? What the hell happened? After that, I confronted my wife, who continued to spread the same lies. After that, I handed her the receipts to her for her consideration. She then changes the course of her story to okay. So I went out with him, but we didn't drink, and you seem to think that was okay with him. I didn't tell you because I was scared you'd be upset. I was wrong. A formalized paraphrasing of the original after all. You were just drinking with a group, and you believe it's all right to go home with this man since you didn't continue to drink. Thereafter came the statement, I have no recollection of where we went since I was too inebriated to remember. After careful investigation and pointing out lies and discrepancies, it was determined to be we kissed. We made out for an hour. I have feelings for him that I don't know what to do with. And we kissed back in November, as well are all phrases used to describe their relationship. Who knows what she's still hiding, but that's all I need to know for now, thank you. I'm honestly not sure how we'll be able to get out of this situation while still being married. After leaving my house, I made a reservation at a hotel. Since seeing all of the red warning flags in November, I've been suffering a great deal of anxiety. I feel a great sense of relief after months of being gaslighted to finally get some recognition for my efforts. It feels 100% better to inquire around and run the risk of being wrong and seeming like a jerk than it does to fall victim to gaslighting and let your mental health to be torn apart in the process. The fact that you are suffering from alcoholism is a disgrace, and you should get treatment, but this is no excuse for cheating.